Hey guys, Sableye here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over my initial thoughts on Series 13, as well as some of the mythical Pokemon that I think are going to be interesting and fun to see around the metagame as the series develops. Now, for those of you who do not know, Series 13 was released on Pokemon Home Rules the other day, and basically just a quick summary here, you guys will see it on your screen, but it's basically you're allowed to use restricted Pokemon, you're allowed to use mythical Pokemon, and there is just basically no restrictions at all. So if you want to use 3 different restricted, like if you want to use a Veltal, Kyogre, Zacian, Calyrex, Shadow, go for it. By all means, there's no limit to the amount of restricted you can use, no limits to the amount of mythicals you can use, and I think that creates a lot of chaos. Obviously, you still have the basic rules like item clause and your normal limited to the 1 of each Pokedex number, but seeing stuff like crazy teams with like Kyogre, Zacian, and Veltal, I don't know. I think it has potential to be really, really interesting. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that we're not sure if this is going to become an official VGC rule set, but if we do follow along the lines of other past formats, generally speaking, the latter format does reflect. There have been instances in the past where they haven't been the same, which has been a little bit unfortunate, but other than that, I do think this is what we're looking for when we move forward into VGC coming out of Post Worlds. Obviously, the format does begin on September 1st and will last until the end of October. Now, I think this is going to be pure chaos, personally myself, but I am super excited to see some certain mythicals in VGC. Because, I don't know, as a Pokemon fan and as a VGC player, I don't get to use mythical Pokemon, right? They're really, really hard to come by, and I can understand why they're not allowed generally, right? It is a huge entry barrier, because if I just want to pick up VGC one day, let's say I just started Pokemon, I wanted to pick up VGC, well, I haven't been able to get any of the events of the Magearna, of the Volcanions, right? And it's stuff like that that makes them a huge entry barrier. We're not going to get into that too much, but I did want to touch upon it, and that's why I'm still a little bit hopeful and reluctant, I guess you can say, to think that this is actually going to be the VGC format, but it is definitely going to be the ranked ladder format. So you know what? Why not talk about it anyways? So we're going to jump right into some mythicals that I think, first of all, the first one that I think we can all kind of assume is going to be around, and that's going to be Magearna. And Magearna is honestly just a fantastic Pokemon. It's a solid special attacker. Like, we're going to pull up the stats really quickly, guys. I'm going to go quickly over these. I don't want to spend super amounts of time on it. But look at that special attack. Look at the defenses, right? Like, this is a solid Pokemon all around. Now you look at the ability, you go back to Soul Heart. And Soul Heart, basically, anytime a Pokemon on the field faints, Magearna over here is going to get a special attack boost. And that is really, really insane, because it's basically like the Calyrex's abilities, only Calyrex doesn't need to be, only Magearna doesn't need to be the one to get the knockout. Right? Magearna can just sit there, do absolutely nothing, and it's still going to get a special attack boost, which makes this Pokemon an absolute beast, and it also gets access to Trick Room. Now, the main drawback I find with Magearna, or I think is going to happen with Magearna, is its awkward speed tier, right? It's not really slow enough to be underpacing the stuff like the Calyrex Ice and all the other dedicated Trick Room mons. And it's not really fast enough to really be able to capitalize off Tailwind as much as some of the other mons as well. So it does have a little bit of an awkward speed tier holding it back, but I do think you're going to have a lot of really cool instances where Magearna is going to be able to like switch in, and you're going to sack your other Pokemon so Magearna can get the boost, right? I think it's going to be a really cool piece to use and see around in VGC. It might be a little bit annoying. It's going to get super annoying. It's going to have some pretty decent usage, I would assume. But you know what? I don't know. I think this format is going to be super, super fun when it's not taken super seriously. Like, if you have to play this format for CP, it's going to get a little bit rough, because it's going to be chaos. But for fun, I was playing in a tournament the other day, just a ladder tour, and honestly, it was actually pretty fun to play in for fun, right? And I think that's what I'm going to look forward to most in this format, is just kind of having fun with VGC again with some of these mythicals. But moving on to the next mythical that I'm actually super curious about, and I think a lot of other people are as well, is Volcanion. And for me, Volcanion is one of those ones where I've built teams in the past, and I've built numerous teams in the past, and I get to the last slot and I'm like, you know, a fire water type would be really good here. Now, I don't know if that's going to affect this format all that much, But Volcanion is an interesting one, right? Obviously, you're still going to have the Zacians, and you're still going to have the Kyogres, and Volcanion does a very, very good job of kind of walling those out. Obviously, you have to worry a little bit about the Thunder. You have to worry about the Groudon still. But I think what Volcanion's usage is the Fire and the Water. So what I would do, or I'm curious and wanted to try out, is something like Volcanion on a Kyogre plus Groudon team. Probably want to close that off with another restricted and some support, but for right now, that's what my concept is, because you can have Volcanion on the field. You can switch in your Rain to boost your Steam Eruptions. You can switch into Sun to boost either Heat Waves or something. And on top of that, Volcanion also gets access to Ground type attacks, which is also really, really nice to deal with some of those electric types like the Aleki, if you can find a way to manage to survive or redirect the attack. And it's just a really cool mon that, like, it's things you don't see, right? You've got the Water Absorb, so you completely wall out Kyogre. Like, if Kyogre does not carry Thunder, you're going to wall it out, which is really, really cool. Now, you're going to see Kyogre start adapting with Thunder because of this, but it's still a really cool concept. You also resist both of the Zacian stabs as well as the Magearna stabs, which I think could be really, really interesting moving forward. And other than that, I mean, it's a mythical, right? So the stats are going to be decent, right? You're looking at special attacker here, just neutral speed, nothing absolutely crazy, just kind of a bulky special attacker, right? And I think it's going to be really, really cool to see around in the VGC circuit. I'd be interested to see how it actually plays into a part, because in a format like this, it's going to be either you're going to go all in on Tailwind stuffs or you're going to go all in on Trick Room stuffs, I think, anyways. And this is kind of more of a middle ground Pokemon, so it's going to be interesting how people actually utilize this role, if it's even going to see usage at all. Like, right? It might just be, hey, Volcanion is not as good as everybody once thought. But I am curious to see how Volcanion's going to work, and I certainly myself will be trying it at some point. Moving forward, we have Victini, and to me, Victini is kind of cool, right? Like, he's just kind of chilling there. Like, look at him. Now, personally, I think the Psychic type is a huge, huge, huge downside to anything in this format. Basically, because you've got the Calyrex Shadows, you've got the Yveltals, and I think because of that, it's going to hinder Victini quite a bit. And this is the exact same reason why something like Jirachi is not on this list. Because of the Calyrex Shadow, because of the Yveltal. Hey, Jirachi's going to be cool to see around if someone finds a way to use it. But I do, on the other hand, think it gets hurt. That Psychic typing, and in addition to the Steel typing, really, really hurts it. Because there's just better steals to go about using. Now, back to Victini here. Like I said, the Psychic type hurts it. But I think the most important thing here is the ability Victory Star, and that's basically going to boost your accuracy. And when I think about needing to boost accuracy, my brain immediately goes to Groudon and Venusaur. Now, Groudon and Venusaur is already a good core, right? So now you can get something like Groudon, you get something like Venusaur, and now you're boosting like Venusaur's Sleep Powders. All of a sudden, you have a 10% boost on that. You're still not 100%, but it's a little bit more accurate now. All of a sudden, right? You got your Groudons. Groudon with the 85% accurate P-Blades. No, thank you. It's now 93%. Like I said, still not 100, but that little bit of a boost is really, really nice. I think you can also have something like Victini be Choice Scarfed. All of a sudden, you're just dropping Zacians, right? It's got a decent move pool as well. Nothing absolutely crazy. Bolt Strike is illegal. You cannot get Bolt Strike because it was only an event back in Gen 5, so you'd have to be transferring it up, but you need the Galar mark, so you can't do that. But other than that, you can go special, you can go physical. I think V-Create is probably the best move here, right? Like, V-Create base 180, right? Like, it's pretty disgusting, right? And you're saying it can't miss, but it can miss. Sorry, you're saying it can miss, but it can't miss because 95% accurate with the 10% boost is 100% accurate. It will not miss as long as there's no accuracy things. So Victory Star is really, really cool, and I think it's going to allow Victini to see a little bit of usage, especially besides something like Groudon and Venusaur. So I'm definitely interested to see how that develops, because like Victini is a cool Pokemon, right? I don't know. That's what I want to see. Now, moving on, we're going to go to Melmetal here, and we've all heard of Melmetal. I think at this point, we all know what Melmetal does. You've got the double Iron Bash in the Trick Room. You're super slow. You're super bulky. You tank hits. The only really downside you've got is that special defense. But I think you can work around that, especially because you do get access to Max Quake. And I think it's honestly just a really good Trick Room answer on teams. Like I said earlier, I was running in a ladder tournament earlier on, and I did actually use Melmetal. And it was just nice way to patch my Trick Room answer, right? You got Trick Room up, and now my Melmetal is the slowest thing in the field. and you get some Steel Spikes, you get some Max Quakes, and you just kind of sell a Trick Room that way, and then you go back into your big, fast attackers afterwards, right? So it's a really nice Pokemon. Now, Melmetal G-Max is available. I don't think it's very good. I don't think G-Max Melmetal is as good as regular Metal, just because I believe Steel Spike is a lot better than the G-Max Meltdown ability. Steel Spike boosting your defenses is a lot better than just basically a Torment on the opposing Pokemon, not letting them use the same attack twice. Now, it could be cool, but I think Steel Spike is a way more consistent and way more cool to see. And I do think Melmetal is going to be a threat. It's definitely going to be viable if people opt to have trouble. Like, if it's just a Cali Ice answer, are we going to get Trick Room up? Nope, I got a Melmetal, sorry. Right? And it's really, really cool because of that. Now, gonna move right along to Mew here. I do want to speed this up. I don't want this video to drag out too long. But moving on to Mew. Mew is just one of those Pokemon where it gets access to everything. How could that not be good? Right? Smeargle was good. Right? Now you've got Mew, access to everything. You've got Dynamax to capitalize on everything that it gets. You've got potential access to Air Scream. You've got Energy Ball. You need a tech move, throw a Mew in there. You know, you've got Spore. Don't forget about Spore. Don't forget about something like Follow Me. It gets access to everything, and that's really, really cool. The one thing, or the two things I should say, holding Mew back are the fact that Calyrex Shadow is just going to be around. Yveltal is just going to be around. And those are two heavy damaging mons that Mew doesn't really want to see. Now, hey, maybe your team has very good answers to that. Maybe Mew can still be good. I do still think Mew has a nice little niche, personally myself. And honestly, I think it's going to be really, really cool to see how Mew gets used, because obviously, yeah, you say Mew can run whatever it wants, right? And it's so vague, it's so open. But as the meta develops, I think you're going to see Mew start settling into certain roles, and you're going to start seeing some moves that are more common than others. Obviously, you're still going to have that surprise element. Like, you're going to get that one match where it's like, I lost to Wild Charge Mew or something like that, you know? That's something you don't expect, but I think for the most part it will settle in, and it will be cool to see if Mew actually ends up getting used. One Pokemon I did forget that I do want to mention really quickly is Zeraora. So Zeraora to me is one of those ones that is interesting, right? Because its speed, it's going to be faster than Zacian as long as you make it max speed, which I think is a really cool feature. It is a tad bit unfortunate that it's still going to be slower than Calyrex Shadow, because Calyrex Shadow will still do some massive damage to this. But in my opinion, Zeraora gets a really, really cool arsenal of moves, which gives it a little bit more of an edge when it comes to, do you want to use Regieleki or Zeraora? Personally, I think Regieleki is going to outlast Zeraora in the format. I do think Regieleki has a little bit more leeway as of right now, but Zeraora is really cool, right? You get access to Plasma Fist, which turns opposing normal moves into electric type moves for the rest of the turn, which is cool. Not that I don't think that's going to come in handy too often, but Plasma Fist is cool. Obviously, you get the Volt Absorb, so the Regielekis really can't hit you. And you get access to stuff like Electroweb, you get Snarl, you get Fake Out, right? So I personally want to go something like with an AV Zeraora. Even Sash would be cool, just as like a support restricted. Not restricted, but a mythical, right? And I think it could be cool. Also, I am just going to point out, absolutely beautiful shiny. Just gonna point out, absolutely beautiful shiny. But personally, guys, just to wrap things up here, I am super on the fence about this format. Like, from a Pokemon fan perspective, I'm like, yes, mythicals are gonna be really, really cool to see, and it's gonna be absolute chaos. And I think it's gonna make for some cool viewership. Like, I think it's gonna be a cool format to watch. But I do think playing this format competitively is going to be ugly. Like, it's going to basically be, we both set Tailwinds and I'm gonna lose a speed tie, or I'm gonna set Tailwind and Trick Room Whimsicott's gonna come out and I'm gonna lose because the Whimsicott clicked Trick Room. You know, I'm thinking they're gonna match my Tailwind. Nope, they're gonna click Trick Room. It's gonna be annoying, I think, in that regard. Like, if you start taking this format super seriously, I don't think it's going to be a great format. But from a Pokemon fan perspective, I am super excited to use the Mythicals. And I think that's gonna do it for today's episode, video today, guys. And if this is something you do like, please let me know. Please feel free to leave a comment. I would like to keep things like this more common on the channel moving forward as the channel continues to grow. So with that, guys, that is gonna do it for this video. I'm gonna stop rambling, and I will catch you guys in a future video.